page turning over page 조금씩 좁혀가 유력한 주동자 남겨진 victim big pain deep gray 찾아 like Jackie Chan quickly swiftly
Gonna hunt you karma Gonna get you karma 사실들도 남겨줘 원만만이 남았어 그렇게 누리는 게 소리 Not for me 하늘 가득 분노를 담은 듯 깊게 내려치는 thunder 이내 지켜낸 땅 그 위에 깃발을 들고 또 맞서 싸워 견딜 수 없어 더는 숨을 수 없어 For life
발을 맞춰 전진 reload 저기 가득한 그 위로 우리 모두에게 설레
I give you vision 한달의 아픔은 감겨 쉬어갈수록 더 번져 그들에겐 없어 reason I'll give you vision
I give you vision I give you vision
눈부신 너의 내일과 아름다운 이곳을 위해 우릴 향해 Give it up tonight 발을 맞춰 전주 위로 저기 가득한 길 위로 우리 모두에게 살아 I'll give you vision 잠깐의 아픔은 견뎌 쉬어갈수록 더 번져 그들에게 맞서 reason I'll give you vision
Good evening, and what the hell is my audio system doing now? I'm apparently being captured both on input and output, which I'm sure can't be right. Let's just try pressing some more buttons. Does that look better? Right, that's better. Silly OBS. Right, hello, welcome back to my game of Shenzhen I, where I've been spending altogether too long trying to fix printers, and because my real life has also been involved spending all too long trying to fix printers, I think I'm going to have an evening off from the printers tonight. Though I did realise that last time, after the last one, that the music that I chose of the opening of last week's stream, the last stream, was actually weirdly appropriate, in that it includes Vivi's line, oh gods, I've forgotten it now, so close to perfect it hurts to throw it away. And the output stage of that printer I've built is so close to being perfect, but I have a horrible feeling I may have to throw it away. Because I think it may actually not work. But let's do something different. Let's build a sushi robot. So, Derek Paul wants to build a sushi making robot that is now not a priority, but clearly needs to be done. All it needs now is my expert logic to make it go. So let us explore the sushi making robot. So it has a fish terminal.
What fish?
Fish.
Oh, this is sushi sticks.
So radio RX is a non-blocking X-bus input connected to a radio receiver. Fish is an X-bus output connected to a food-grade pick-and-place machine. Rice is a simple output connected to a food-grade extruder. Gate A, Gate B and Gate C are simple outputs connected to actuators capable of pushing a small plate of food from one conveyor belt to another conveyor belt. When an order arrives over the radio, assemble the specified nigiri sushi and deliver it to the table that ordered it.
Do not activate the conveyor belt in such a way as to shunt the food into a pit.
Yes. Orders will arrive faster than the sushi can be assembled and delivered, so it will be necessary to in-queue the orders as they arrive and pipeline the assembly. See, this is more evil than my printer. Pipeline the assembly and delivery as indicated in the verification tab. Look in the supplemental data section of the manual to find the sushi bar floor plan detailing the layout of the sushi bar and its conveyor belts. Which indeed doesn't appear in... I was hoping we might have a little diagram here, but we don't. But essentially... Let me actually open this so at least people here can see it. No, that's the LaserJet 4000 service manual. There, right. Rotate clockwise. So essentially, so the tables are numbered 1 to 8, and C represents the low order bit, B represents the middle bit, and A represents the high order bit. Obviously, except that we would usually number them from 0 to 7 rather than from 1 to 8. So each packet just contains type of sushi and destination table. So for instance, we get a packet saying 6-4, which means sushi of type 6 to table 4. We then emit... Rice has to be put out by emitting 100 for a bit, and then 30 for a bit, and then 0. And halfway through that doesn't feel like you're producing nigiri, really. Halfway through that, you emit an X bus signal on the fish port. And then, oh gods, then of course, because the, this isn't going to be much easier than my printer. Then, yeah,
Okay.
it's a 3D sushi printer.
It's a 3D rice extruder. I mean, yes, okay.
Then there's a short pause while the conveyor belt gets the sushi to the first junction, and then we have to fire that. Oh right, we fire it up or down to indicate which direction to send it in. So we send 100, and then a little while later 0 and 0 to send things in that particular direction with appropriate time delays. And when they pile up, I mean, they aren't actually, while it says you will have to NQ the orders. Oh yes, that one, those do actually lag, don't they? Yes. And then we end up with the sushi pipelined all along the conveyor belts. And oh gods, this makes that printer look simple. Right. So we clearly need something that reads entire packets into some kind of memory. So I think we have... Ooh. I was going to say we have several things reading the RAM, but of course we can only have 2 pointers into the RAM. And like we can do the fairly common trick of we have a write pointer and a read pointer, which are on the 2 ports of the RAM. So we have one device that writes things into it and one that reads from it. But the problem is that ultimately we need 4 things reading the RAM. We need the sushi assembler and the 3 gates, and they all need to be reading from different places. So the timing is such that there is basically one there's only one sushum in transit between any 2 locations, except possibly between the maker and the first gate. So that would mean that we could have the 3 gate controllers just passing instructions along to one another. So that would kind of work. So I can imagine something that looks a bit like that. Controlling the gates. And then each one of those extracts one digit from the destination and uses that to decide what its output is going to be, and then passes the destination on to the next one. And with a bit of careful timing, that can probably be made to work. And then, I mean, there certainly seems to be a bit of the outputs are all designed to be nice and easy to wire up going on here, isn't there? Doesn't there?
I think that's what it is.
So then we could have... I'm going, how do we map table numbers into the A, B and C outputs? Because, like, yes, theoretically, we just we subtract 1, extract the 3, and then expand the 3 low bits. But that's a really awkward thing to do on these processors. I'm wondering if we actually just use a ROM. Like, just tuck a ROM in down here somewhere that has all of the table number mappings. And then a processor there that organises them. I mean, one way in which this is easier than the printer is all the timings are known in advance. The thing that's really awkward about my printer is that each thing you do takes a different amount of time, and you have to do all the working out before you know any of the timings, because it's all maximum of this and that. Whereas this thing, the timings are all fixed the moment an order arrives. So at least from the moment at which you start actually processing an order, rather, it has to be enqueued on the way to being actually processed. But also, yeah, right mouse button on this laptop still doesn't work properly. Today my laptop, there was a danger that this stream wasn't going to happen because it depended on Dell bringing me a new motherboard for my laptop today, which they did at about 1 p.m. Out of their 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. slot that they eventually gave me. But yes, the right mouse button is still slightly dodgy, so that at least will want changing tomorrow. Tomorrow, Monday. They don't fix things at weekends. Right, anyway, maybe I should write some code for some bits of this. So the general idea here is something like... we've got the DGT problem, haven't we? Where extracting a digit from a number destroys it. Maybe we do all the digit extraction up here then, or something. It's kind of messy as well, though. Because the problem is we need to do digit extraction and then pass the rest of the number on to the next thing. We can't do it in reverse order. And the wiring is going to be so much harder if we try to use MC6000s for these. On the other hand, what else do we know? We seem to only get, at least in this case, 4 orders simultaneously. That doesn't really matter. Oh, we've got... So we can only store 1 byte in the ROM per table because there are 8 tables. So that kind of means that something has to be doing digit extraction. So if we imagine that this receives a table number on X0 and wants to work on it, it goes something like that. So that seems reasonable. So then the idea then is that each of these receives in... No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. Because we have to store what we've read in order to... We can't just pass on those second and third digits because we have to store that knowledge until that point. Ugh. How will the wiring work if we use 3 MC6000s and really go to town on this? It goes quite horribly, doesn't it? Because then we end up with something that looks like that, and who wants something that looks like that? Oops, wrong button. I mean, it might mean that we can get away without that processor, but... Oh, but that one doesn't need to be an MC6000, does it? Ah. That one can be an MC4000 because that doesn't have to pass anything on. So all that this one does is it expects to receive something on its input. Extract C is the low order bit, so let's make it the low order bit, low order digit rather. Extract the low order digit. Do we actually do this, or do we do this as a gen? Actually, we don't even have to extract the low order digit, do we? It's really easy if you're this processor. We can just say, assuming that we get passed through a number that uses 3 digits of the 3 gate positions, if it's greater than 99, i.e. if it's 100, thank you, Pink Beast, then generate a positive pulse, otherwise generate a negative pulse. Oops, otherwise. So we can't actually do this. We need to decide how the timing's going to work here. So, like, if essentially, is it the receiving chip whose job it is to wait to sleep the gap in between these pulses, or is it the sending chip's job? Let's go for pushing everything as late as we can, so we'll make it the receiving chip's job. So it will receive its next task. Oh no, but the receiving chip has to... let's go for putting a slip 2 in here, so it happens at the end of the previous pulse. So we receive the thing and then go slip 2. Sorry, I'm moving too much and the slightly dodgy HDMI cable is causing trouble. Right. So that looks like it's what we need there. And that, of course, allows us to then just go clonk with this one. So we can get away with that layout. Oh, look, the whole thing's designed to actually be sensibly laid out, unlike certain printers. So this one needs to look at the middle digit. And that can only sensibly be done by DGT, I think. So now we have AC being 1 or 0. So while it would be quite fun to try to use Gen for this, it might be a bit tricksy because we really need 1 and 0 or 0 and 1. So it's probably simpler to just use is it greater than 0? If it is, then we can essentially do the same thing we did over here. And then we need to send the original number we got to the next processor in the chain. And then this one has essentially the same program, except it does a DGT 0 to pull out the low order digit. So where does this then get those digits from? So it's got a decent quantity of X-bus ports available. So it might be able to have enough code to actually handle reading from the ROM as well. So if rather than doing mov x0 dat, it instead did mov x0 x2 mov x1 dat, then it could handle using the lookup table. That's nice and simple, isn't it? So our lookup table just goes sorry, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. Which is a kind of silly thing to put in your ROM, but there you go, except they should all be offset by 1 because the tables count from... one, not 0. So it might be worth trying to work out how to do that, in how to implement that lookup table in about 5 instructions. There's a job for you, Simon. So we receive the table number as a number from 1 to 8. We want to map that into a 3-digit number in the semi-obvious binary representation, namely 000 through 111. Yes. At the moment, I'm just going, sod this, we'll use a lookup table. But maybe, and we've got about this much code in which we could do this, if you can think of a way to do it. But I'm for now going to go, sod this, we'll use a lookup table. Right, so I'm going to now stick in a diagnostic processor here whose sole job is to send table numbers and see if we can get them right. So in particular, if we have it slip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, slip 6 morph 4 x2, that should cause the robot to dispatch an empty plate of sushi correctly to table 4. If it then sleeps another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then sends 1 to table 2, another 3, and sends something to table 5, another 3, and send something to table 7. Alright, so that should cause quite a lot of things to do the right thing. Well, it started well. So we're missing some slips, aren't we? Because I'm an idiot. I put the slip 2 in there, but I didn't put the corresponding slip 2s in the other processors. So we want to put one of those before each of the gens. Sorry, I've just burnt one of your instructions, Simon. Okay, so now my timing is wrong in that slip 6 is the wrong length, because that slip 2 doesn't actually need to be a 2. Ideally, it will probably fire... I don't know quite when it would fire, but let's adjust that slip 6 to be slip 4 so that it generates things at the right times. Well, that's kind of right and kind of rubbish. Okay, what happened there? So gate B is apparently upside down. You're right, gate B is upside down. Okay, I think my lookup table idea is looking better now. Gate B requires 100 to send to the low numbered tables and 0 to send to the high numbered tables. Who wired this thing? Oh, so does gate... Hang on, no, they're all upside down. Okay, that's not actually so hard. Then how did I get any answers right here? That means I've screwed up in some other way, doesn't it? Because the correct way to reach table 4, which is the one we're first aiming for, is A high, B low, C low. Indeed. So we should therefore have looked up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and got something that is precisely the inverse of that, as we expect. I'm kind of tempted actually to just flip my output signals rather than... So the only question there is, why did gate A give the right answer? Because I've got the gates backwards, haven't I? Right, I've got my digits in the wrong order as well. Because actually this is reading the low order bit, even though in terms of table numbers, A is the high order bit. Right. Okay. Let's. I mean, I could just do this by rewriting the lookup table, but let's try to keep the lookup table sane. So instead, this one should be reading the high order bit, and we invert the outputs. That means this can't just do a TGT. It does incidentally mean that one could, so we can probably save an instruction there. It has to do DGT 0, TGT AC 0. So this one, on the other hand, can change DGT2 to just TGT AC 99. Well, that's a new failure. What? So that's as normal. At the end of that pulse, that sends its signal to there. Oh, I do actually have to load X0 into something. Happily, we've got plenty of space. Okay, someone didn't swap the output polarity of that one. Right, that works pretty well. Everything goes pear-shaped here because we can't fake the inputs for long enough. But that's fine, because we can probably fairly shortly replace that with actual, like, something that reads the real radio. So we've actually got enough room for an MC6000 up here now, if we need it. We'll drop one in temporarily just in case we need it. But really, actually, the rice output and stuff is really simple, isn't it? It's like, I mean, you produce rice by going, it's always the same, gen P1, 1, 0, mov P1, 30, sorry, mov 30 P1, slip 1, mov 0 P1. And then in between that we need to handle emitting. Here we need to emit fish, and somewhere out here we need to dispatch things in the right direction on the belts, and there is an interesting problem there. But let's not worry about that interesting problem just now. So I mean, this one, we could just have a processor here that goes... something like that, and that's all it needs. And then we just need something to drive to sort out kind of master timing sort of things. So that one can actually be an MC4000, I think, unless we put more work on this processor by having it do some of the timing control as well. So we're probably going to want something that reads from the radio and writes orders into RAM. So let's design that bit. So one question is how... The last time we did this, we had some stupid thing that involved not bothering to keep a record of where our read and write, where our write pointer was, and just detecting that the RAM was completely empty. That was in the kelp harvester. I feel that in this case we might want to do something different and have some indication of... I suppose the reader can always, if it reaches the end of the stuff that's been written to the RAM, backspace. So we could write some kind of sentinel value at the end. But that then means everyone has to backspace to overwrite the sentinel, which is kind of inconvenient. Why does no one make a FIFO as a standard part? Plus jumpy. But then I haven't got enough instructions to backspace in order to overwrite it. On the other hand, we could just arrange that the problem is if the reader reads off the end, then it'll eventually wrap round to the beginning of the queue again and start emitting the same sushi. And so we would need something that wipes the memory. So if we don't have a sentinel at the end, then the reader needs to delete everything that it's read, and that's surely far more effort than implementing a sentinel. The only awkwardness is that I don't know that I can implement a sentinel without going to more instructions, because we need essentially to have that to backspace 1. Yes. I was going, can we do this another way? Well, we could do mov -1 add x3 mov ack x3, but that's the same number of instructions. Sorry, add x, yes. So this is all one instruction too few. And we are also required to start cooking, making food as soon as the thing arrives. So we have to signal to whatever's going to read from the RAM that there is something available to be read immediately. Yeah, the queuing is quite tricksy, isn't it? It's like, we can use this to write orders into RAM. Let's just make it an MC6000 for now while I prove the point. So like that's correctly writing the orders into RAM with a sentinel at the end. But we need some way to tell whatever's going to read them that there's another order waiting. But that's kind of tricky because the thing that's going to read them may or may not currently be waiting for us to tell it there's an order. Like, if we're receiving this fourth order in a batch, everything is like we receive it there, and everything is already busy. So how do we handle that fiddly synchronization problem? So whatever's reading from the RAM is doing so at a known rate, and it takes it can read one entry every 3 time units. Looks like we only get orders every 2 time units. That fact may not help us much. I wonder if we've got enough space to actually have the reader and the writer be the same processor. Because then we could throw away the Sentinel and just have it use a register, DAT, we've got DAT spare, to keep track of where both the reading and writing tasks are. But then it does need to keep track of time as well, because it can receive a packet asynchronously with respect to the order processing. And so it would need like something that tells it where it is in the output 1 order every 3 time units thing, and that's surely not right. On the other hand, oh, hang on, our reader has to backspace anyway. So our reader could just, every clock cycle when it's idle, see whether it's still looking at -1. But then there's still a problem of synchronization, because if it does that too early in the clock cycle, in the time unit, the -1 will still be there even though a new order is incoming. So we do want it to be triggered by incoming data, which probably means that what we want is a regular X-bus output clock pulse from this thing every time unit that says, I have processed any radio data that we might have seen this time unit. It is now safe for you to read from the RAM. And then similarly, the receiver waits for that to happen, reads that, and then sees what's in the RAM in order to deal with it. Right. So conveniently, we already have a point at which that happens. So you would do something like mov null x1, where x1 is... See if I've accidentally... Oh, my function keys don't do what I was expecting them to do anymore, because my instructions for how to reconfigure the BIOS on my laptop only covered things that you have to do in order to get Linux to work at all. And don't include make the function keys the right way around. So if we put the radio on there, then that makes getting that X-bus signal out quite a lot easier. So then the idea is that whatever reads from the RAM listens on that X-bus. When it receives something on that X-bus, looks at its current RAM pointer. If it is -1, it backspaces the RAM pointer and does nothing else. Otherwise, because this happens every clock cycle, then on 2 of those clock cycles it will just throw away the signal. And on every 3rd one, assuming it's generating output, and on the 3rd one it will look at the RAM, see if it's looking at -1, backspace if it is, and if it isn't, read from the RAM and process a sushi order. Right. I think I understand that. Now where do I put it? So it needs 3 X-bus connections, which is always a pain, because it needs address and data to the RAM and the synchronization connection to that processor. And like ideally it then has also X-bus outputs to both of these, but there aren't enough X-bus ports for that. Is there a way we can no. Ooh. Maybe we can avoid the need to backspace. No, we can't. So that means that the thing reading this, reading the RAM, is going to be Hang on. Is only going to have one X-Bus port that it can output things on. Which means that it can't send to both of these two if both of these two exist. But maybe one of them can proxy to the other, which would be this one proxying to this one. So what are we doing about layout here then? We need can't squish that any lower. Should disconnect that X-Bus for now while we think. Well, it needs to go out that far, I suppose. So the awkwardness is that the current layout wants, the problem. So the big problem is that we need to get a processor that can be wired to all of the RAM and to 2 ports on the RAM and to that thing, which my kind of feeling is that. Oops. I want to somehow tuck this in down here. That's not quite going to work. Oh, it might. That's not going to work. Yeah, this turns out to be just slightly impossible, because I need to put 2 bridges like that, which I cannot do. Okay, can we do this by moving the RAM slightly to the right, because there's probably enough room for that. Yes. Right, so there we have the 3 X-Bus connections we want. All of the X-Bus port numbers in there are wrong. But we've got lots of lovely space in which to do some things. Slight problem is if we try to drop an MC6000 in here, we're going to have pin type problems, but we can sneak around those pin type problems by doing that under the radio. Right, wonder if this works. So, first, this one needs all of its pin numbers reorganising. So, X1 should now be replaced with X3. X2 should be the data output to the RAM, which is now X0. X3 is the address from the RAM, which should now be X1. and X0 should be the X-bus synchronization output, which should now be X2, which also randomly adjusts the address pointer on the other side of this ROM. We don't care. Right, so that should now put the correct thing into RAM. Oh, except the ROM absorbs all those writes, doesn't it? Ugh. And so nothing else can listening on that X-bus will hear from them. And all of my design fundamentally depends on being able to stick that ROM there. And connect it to that X-bus port. There's some adjustment I can make to fix that. I mean, we could move the ROM up. Yes, there is, I think. We put the ROM there instead. Will this work? Obviously, we're still passing through its A0 pin rather amusingly. Oh right, yeah, but if we put... Oh, that wasn't right. If we then put the radio down there, we actually have the same problem, which is we have this wall of pins that we can't get through. Can we do something involving putting the radio there? No, because that's the wrong pin on the radio. We want to connect to the radio's receive pin, not to its transmit pin. Can we... At least usually the layout problems turn out to be tractable in the end. So yes, we can't. In order to get that track out at all, we need this little offset between those two, and we can't move this further to the right because it'll tangle up that track. And so the only way we could move the ROM to the right would be if we put it here. But then we can't put the radio here because that connects the wrong one of the radio's pins. That's not a signal that's going very far. It feels like we should be able to sort this out. Oh, then that one there, it's only going between these two processors. But it's got this common problem we have, the difficulty of getting your tracks past the great big columns of pins on the chips. So how does that... I'm slightly worried that the design is wrong as well. The queue synchronization is not quite right. Let's not worry about that yet. So that, so yes, our problem currently is that connection there causes that X bus not to work properly. We can't move the ROM rightwards because then it would crash into that simple I/O pin, which isn't allowed. That connection is unnecessary, so if we were to decide to move this chip upwards, that would be permitted, but it would make all sorts of other connections fiddly, because we still need to be able to connect to X0 on this chip, and that needs to come from up there, I think. So this one is the dequeuing processor, isn't it? This is kind of infuriating because I'm like 3/4 of the way there and now finding there isn't enough space to build what I want. And yet we've got all this space here which we should be able to do something with. Right? Yes. What we want is a new version of the MC6000, which is exactly the same except what someone's cut the P1 and P0 pins off it. So that they're just gaps you can route tracks under. As that would solve a lot of my routing problems both here and in the printer. On the other hand, why does that need to be an MC6000? We don't know how much code it needs yet. Let's assume that it doesn't need very much code. Right, there we go. Okay, how does that help us? So that doesn't actually allow us to move the radio anywhere. I suppose what it does do is allow us to move the radio to there. Then wasn't... Yes, didn't I have a stupid plan that then involved swapping... Oops. Swapping the ROM and the radio? What on earth is this track for? I think that one is now going that way. Right, well that's the layout done. So I wonder if we've got enough space in this processor to do what we need to do. I suppose if not, we can stick another one in here, maybe. So now the radio receives on X2 and the synchronization signals are on X3. And this one, the excuse me. The requirement to send the destination table arrives on X2 and the ROM address is X1. And the ROM data is X0. So that's that done. So what does this one do then? This one goes read. Wait until any incoming radio data has been processed. Ooh, I could now. Move that up to there and then tuck the radio in down here somewhere. Don't know that helps much, mind. So that listens for the synchronization signal which says we've done radio processing for this time unit. Then it needs to go well, that's all very well, but that doesn't do anything. In particular, that doesn't actually, like I've just written the code to each clock cycle, each time unit, wait until the correct moment, then read, check if there's anything waiting for us in the RAM. If there is, copy it out to X3, copy 2 bytes out to X3. If there isn't anything waiting for us in the RAM, backspace so that we can look at the same byte again and sleep. And in either case, sleep. But that's like not actually done anything, because what we really need is for it to, for whatever does this reading, to keep on sleeping until whatever's reading from it is ready. So that would mean that after these 2 instructions, it then just needs to forcibly spend 2 clock cycles doing nothing. Except for listening for those pulses from here, which means we need more instructions. I think we can do it fairly compactly because we could have something that went slip 1 mov, slip 1 mov. We'd need 4 instructions to do it the obvious way. Let me split this between 2 processors somehow. So like have another processor that just handles whether we're ready to start making more food yet, which could always be this one. So how would that work? The thing is, even that's going surely to need more instructions, because we still need this one to go, are we ready for more food? Are we ready to make more food? Yes, no. Which is going to be 2 instructions, whether we like it or not. Well, it's 1 minute to midnight, so I think I should stop this for now. And it was a long episode. And we will come back to this on Sunday and finish it, because we know that this one's possible. It just requires a bit more thinking. Possibly about circuit board layout, possibly about actual programming. Not sure which yet. And then we can probably make it go. So, for now though, we will stop. So, I think, since it is midnight now, I will say good night.